Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now in today's one we're taking a look at the 6GB RTX 2060. This compact HP card was originally part of a pre-built PC and at £150 it was the cheapest on eBay at the time of purchase. No surprise really, considering it's no stunner in the looks department and it's lacking a couple of ports in comparison to its Founders Edition counterpart. We also have a single cooling fan which constantly spins, albeit quietly, under low load, and a light up RTX logo which is only rivaled by the actual sun in terms of brightness. Nothing is sacrificed as far as the clock speeds go though, and this will perform just as you'd expect from a reference card. Launched 4.5 years ago in January 2019 for $349 or £329, the 2060 was an appealing mid-range card that traded blows with the 1070 Ti and 1080, and though it was very early days for ray tracing and DLSS supported games, the gradual implementation of such features, either into existing titles or new releases, kept the 2060 interesting as time went on, perhaps making it more of a tempting proposition over its aforementioned predecessors. In 2023 it's still worth considering given its continuously falling price, so how is it holding up? First of all, I'll run through the benchmarks without any ray tracing enabled, and then we'll touch on that at the end, but I think this is very much a 1080p gaming card these days with ray tracing turned off. That seems to be best for this GPU. In Cyberpunk 2077, first of all, we have the high crowds, high textures and the medium preset, and we were averaging 71 FPS with no help from DLSS. Every time I jumped into a game today, I was actually quite surprised by this card because it ends in 60, so 2060. I was surprised to see this level of performance from it. I thought it was going to do a lot worse, but I've not had much experience with the 2060. I don't even think I'd reviewed it when it came out, so this was definitely quite a surprise for me in terms of the gameplay benchmarks in this video. It's a good start for the 2060 here. For Red Dead Redemption 2 we have 1080p with Digital Foundry's Xbox One X equivalent settings. TAA was also set to medium in accordance with these settings too. For the frame rates, we have 92 FPS on average with some solid percentile lows. I dare say we could even bump the resolution up if we wanted to here, as well as some of the settings, but I find that the console equivalent settings give us a nice balance between performance and visual fidelity. This is still a fantastic looking game, and on the 2060 it runs very well indeed. Forza Horizon 5 next. For the settings I went with 1080p as I have done throughout this entire video, apart from where I may have had to enable FSR or DLSS. I've also gone with the Ultra preset here and TAA as I usually do. As far as the gameplay is concerned, well, we have 82 FPS as an average with a 1% low of 70 and a 0.1% low of 68. This is definitely still a very capable card for the money in 2023. Might be worth considering if you're putting together a lower cost build and want to be able to run some of the latest and greatest AAA titles. Now of course that VRAM may be an issue, or it may put you off if you are looking at this sort of price point, especially when you consider how other newer options have dropped in terms of price recently. For Hogwarts Legacy we have 1080p high preset with TAA low. This one surprised me. I was expecting a lot worse. With medium the frame rate was quite a bit higher, but I decided to push things to high as we could still see at least 60 frames per second here. 69 was the average, very nice, with a 1% low of 43 and a 0.1% low of 32. So not many dips and drops to speak of here, especially in Hogsmeade, and I was certainly expecting the worst here. I think if we were to hit the Ultra settings button, then we may have had a few more issues, but not too many complaints for this one. The Last of Us is another game that I was definitely fearing the worst, but thanks to our good old friend DLSS here, we could see slightly higher frame rates than we did with native. Now at native resolution and the medium preset, we were seeing around 50 to 55 FPS, and you may be happy with that. I certainly was, to be honest, but I thought let's see what happens when we switch on DLSS quality. Everything else was left as the presets suggested, apart from motion blur and depth of field because I tend to turn them off anyway. 75 was the average on this particular level, just getting into Billstown here, 1% lower 55 and a 0.1% lower 50, so smooth across the board. Not bad considering the 6 gigs of VRAM as well. Marvel Spider-Man Remastered with the very high preset now. This was another impressive result, 94 FPS on average. Again, like I said before, it's surprising to see these sort of figures from a 60 card. This thing though, well, very surprising, and it's nice that we do have the ray tracing options as well. I haven't enabled it here, but we'll cover a few games at the end. Spider-Man hitting near 100 FPS on this card though. For the money I paid, £150, even for this not very attractive HP version, I think this was a pretty good deal. For The Witcher 3 Next Gen, we have the Ultra preset here with SSAO, TAAU and Hairworks, as well as ray tracing disabled. 97 frames per second was the average, with decent percentile lows in and around Novigrad. As you can see here, the game looks absolutely fantastic with these settings. We could certainly push things a little higher, and I think we could probably get away with some 1440p gaming in 2023 as well, although what that VRAM will do or how it will react to such a resolution, perhaps that's worth testing in a separate video as well. 1440p and maybe even 4K. All I know is that for 1080p gaming, you're getting a lot of card for your money these days, especially as the price continues to drop on used selling sites like eBay. For Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, I pushed things to Ultra here. SMAA was left at default, so T2X normal. I didn't change anything else with this preset. I think I even left depth of field on, which is unusual, but there we go. In terms of the gameplay, 79 FPS with a 1% low of 57 and a 0.1% low of 43. So if you want to play some Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, this is also one of the more demanding maps as well, this hydroelectric level. I chose this on purpose, and yeah, so you're probably going to see even higher frame rates in other maps, and performance will vary depending on the map you're playing, of course. This tends to be the most strenuous on hardware though, especially graphics cards, so I thought I'd try this one for the benchmark run. Star Wars Jedi Survivor now. This also needed a little bit of help from upscaling. FSR quality is what I went for. Pretty much indistinguishable from native res. It looks a bit sharper on my monitor, in fact. Now without FSR, we were still seeing decent frame rates, but we were getting a lot of drops below 60, which is absolutely fine, but I wanted to try and hit above 60 here, and doing so with the medium preset and FSR quality made this possible. 86 was the overall frame rate, which was higher than I was anticipating. I wanted to boost it to above 60, but I weren't expecting above 80, that's for sure. And the percentile lows also reflect some solid and consistent gameplay. Finally, we have Fortnite for the standard non-RT benchmarks. High preset here, TAA, with 100% res. This was the only thing I changed. Just changed the resolution scaling back to 100%, 118 FPS for the average, with some decent percentile lows as well, which is most unusual. Usually I see a few more issues with the 0.1% low figure in Fortnite, but there we go. Let's move on to a couple of ray tracing benchmarks, something that the 2060 is of course capable of, but didn't get to really do until a while after it had launched, because there weren't many RT and DLSS supported titles out there. Very new technologies at the time of this card's release. Continuing with Fortnite, and we have the same high preset, but this time we have Nanite enabled, Lumen set to high and ray tracing with DLSS quality. This in turn gave us at least 60 FPS, 69 was the average, very nice. The percentile lows did certainly suffer a little bit more. I'd recommend either turning the preset down or just leaving ray tracing off. It's probably best for this card in 2023, but there we go. It is still capable of ray tracing, that's for sure, but you're going to want to manage your expectations, I think, if you want some fancier lighting effects. Minecraft RTX, of course, is the next game to be tested, this time with DLSS enabled and everything set to its respective heights. 72 FPS was the overall average here, and the percentile lows were pretty good. I'm often surprised by how well this one runs, even with Nvidia's older RT capable cards. It's a very nice result, and Minecraft RTX always impresses me with its visuals as well. The difference is massive when you go from ray tracing on to ray tracing off too, so yeah, really nice in terms of how it looks, this one, and it performs nicely with DLSS on too. Finally then, we have Cyberpunk 2077, a bit more demanding now. I kept the same high crowd density and the high textures. Perhaps that was a bit of a mistake, but I switched to the Ray Tracing Ultra preset here, which was definitely a mistake, and enabled DLSS, this time setting it to balanced mode. Even with the balanced mode, we weren't quite able to hit 60 frames per second. Instead, we got 48, which I think is still absolutely fine, considering the card and considering the game. 48 frames per second on average, with a 1% low of 40, and a few little dips and drops here and there. Definitely worth choosing a lower ray tracing preset or just disabling a couple of the options, but it's nice to know that at least 30 FPS is more than possible with the right settings, and this actually still looks really good. Overall, the 2060 and 2023 is still more than hanging in there. It's actually a really good option for 1080p low cost gaming, but those of you concerned with the 6 gigs of VRAM may want to consider other options that cost similar money, and it's always worth seeing what newer cards are on the market with more VRAM as well. That's all for this one though. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed the look at this HP RTX 2060. A pretty interesting looking card to say the least, pulled straight from an HP Omen machine I'm assuming, but if you enjoyed this one, leave a like, leave a dislike if you didn't, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and hopefully I'll see all of you in the next one.